After driving for 3.5 hours, Jack arrives at the Overlook Hotel in Colorado and meets manager Stewart. The hotel closes during the winter because the roads become impassable due to the snow, so they need a caretaker who will remain in the hotel for the whole season. Stewart calls it a mentally isolating experience. He's also obligated to reveal that in 1970, caretaker Grady suffered a mental breakdown and killed his family with an axe before self-deleting with his shotgun. The police blamed it on cabin fever. However, this doesn't bother Jack. He used to be a teacher and he's now a writer, so he likes the idea of having 5 months apiece to work. Meanwhile, Jack's wife Wendy and their son Danny discuss what it would be like to live in a hotel for months. Danny doesn't see the difference with his neighborhood since he has nobody to play with there either. Wendy asks Danny if his imaginary friend Tony wants to go to the hotel, so Danny makes a funny voice and moves a finger to play Tony, saying he doesn't want to go. Later in the bathroom, Danny talks to Tony while looking in the mirror. Danny wonders if his dad got the job and Tony says he already did, so he predicts Jack will call Wendy with the news soon. At that moment the phone rings and Wendy picks up a call from Jack, who tells her he got the job. Then Danny asks Tony to explain why he doesn't want to go to the hotel. His eyes widen as he enters a trance in which he sees images of blood rushing out from an elevator, 2 twin girls in blue dresses, and himself screaming. Suddenly Danny faints. Moments later Danny wakes up and finds a doctor checking on him while Wendy watches. The doctor asks him if he saw any flashing lights or heard weird noises, but Danny says no. The last thing he remembers is talking to Tony. When the doctor asks who Tony is, he says it's the little boy who lives in his mouth. The doctor also asks if Tony ever tells Danny to do things, but Danny says he doesn't want to talk about this anymore. Afterward, the doctor privately tells Wendy that there's nothing physically wrong with Danny and that his episode seems to be auto-hypnosis. The doctor asks when Tony first appeared, and Wendy explains that Danny began talking to him when he started nursery school, where he had trouble adjusting. She also reveals that Jack once came home late from work and dislocated Danny's shoulder in a fit of rage. After this incident, Jack became sober and told Wendy that if he ever touched alcohol again, she could leave him. In the last week of fall, the family arrives at the hotel, where the last few guests and the employees are getting ready to leave. Stewart gives Wendy and Jack a tour of the building while Danny stays in the game room playing darts. Suddenly, the twins from his vision appear behind him and they stare at him for a while before leaving. Stewart shows the apartment to the couple before taking them outside to introduce them to the hedge maze, which takes at least an hour to solve. He also explains that the hotel is built on the site of a Native American burial ground and was attacked by local tribesmen when it was being built. In the garage they find the Snowcat, a vehicle that allows them to drive through deep snow in an emergency. In the gold room, the couple admires the ballroom's beauty, and Stewart says the hotel removes the bar's alcohol during the winter closure to lower insurance costs. At that moment the secretary brings Danny, so Stewart asks Chef Dick to show Wendy and Danny the kitchen while he continues the tour with Jack in the kitchen. Dick shows Wendy the huge amount of food they have for the whole winter and keeps calling Danny Doc. Wendy is shocked to hear that he knows Danny's nickname, so Dick claims he must have overheard her calling him that, but Wendy doesn't remember using the nickname since they arrived. Dick continues to show them around, and while the adults chat, Danny can't stop staring at the man's head. Suddenly he hears Dick's voice in his mind, asking him if he wants ice cream. Then Wendy goes back to Jack to finish the tour, so Danny stays with Dick, who wants to have a chat. He shares that he and his grandmother used to have conversations in their heads thanks to a power he calls the Shining. Dick never thought he'd find another person with the Shine and asks Danny about his experience, but Danny says that Tony told him not to talk about it. When Dick asks about Tony, he manages to make Danny talk about his Shine indirectly. Danny sees things when he enters those trances, but he doesn't always remember them. Then Dick explains that this hotel has something shining in it and things happen that can only be seen by people with the Shine. Some of these things were born from tragedies and have living in the hotel for years, so not all of them are good. Dick advises the boy to think of them like pictures in a book. Danny asks about room 237, but Dick swears there's nothing in it and tells Danny to stay out. A month later, the family has found a comfortable and peaceful routine. Wendy admits she was scared of living alone in such a big place when they arrived, but Jack says he fell in love with the hotel immediately, mentioning a powerful feeling of déjà vu. However, he hasn't been able to write. After breakfast, Wendy and Danny go to explore the maze. Jack is supposed to be writing, but instead he's playing with a ball. As he wanders around the room, he finds a scale model of the maze. He stares at it, watching tiny figures of his family reach the center. It's unclear if it's real or his imagination. On Tuesday, the news announced an incoming snowstorm in the area. Danny is riding through the hotel hallways on his tricycle and stops in front of room 237. He tries the doorknob, but it's locked. An image of the twins flashes in his mind before he leaves. Meanwhile, Jack is finally writing. When Wendy comes to check on him, he's very rude to her. Eventually, he snaps and yells at her for interrupting his work. Jack then decides on a new rule. If he's writing, she can't enter the room. He kicks her out using the F word and Wendy leaves in silence. On Thursday, Wendy and Danny play on the snow. Jack watches them from inside with a deranged expression on his face. On Saturday, Wendy tries to use the phone but discovers none of the lines are working. Then she tries the radio in Stuart's office and manages to talk to a park ranger, who informs her that it's common for the phone lines to go out of service all winter. He also tells her that the area is experiencing some of the worst snowstorms in years and advises her to leave the radio on all the time. Danny is still riding his tricycle through the hallways and eventually finds the way blocked by the twins. They know his name and ask him to play with them forever and ever and ever, causing Danny to have a vision of them lying in pools of blood next to an axe. A terrified Danny covers his eyes and waits a few seconds before looking at the hallway again to confirm that the twins are gone. Then he tells Tony that he's scared, so Tony reminds him of Dick's advice: the images aren't real, they're just pictures in a book. On Monday, Danny asks Wendy if he can retrieve a toy from his room, but Wendy says no because Jack is sleeping there. Danny promises to tiptoe to avoid waking him up, so Wendy agrees. However, when Danny enters the apartment, Jack is awake and looking out the window as if in a trance. He invites his son to sit with him and Danny wonders if his dad is feeling sick. Jack assures him he's just tired and wishes they could stay in the hotel forever and ever and ever. The warden reminds Danny of the twins and he wonders if his dad would ever hurt his family. This irritates Jack, who thinks Wendy has been putting ideas in his son's head and swears he'll never hurt him. On Wednesday, Danny is playing with his toys in a hallway when suddenly, a ball rolls into the middle of his cars. He looks around to see who tossed it but finds nobody. Then he walks down the hallway and discovers that room 237 is open, so he peeks inside. Meanwhile, Wendy is turning on the boilers when she hears Jack screaming. She follows the noise to find him sleeping on his desk and having a nightmare. She immediately wakes him up and Jack falls off his chair as he freaks out. He explains he had a horrible dream about him killing her and Danny by chopping them up into pieces. Jack admits he may be losing his mind. When Danny enters the room sucking his thumb, Wendy tells him to leave but he won't listen. She comes closer and notices that he's got awful bruises on his neck. Wendy assumes Jack did it, so she yells at him before taking the boy away. Jack stares at her in shock, which soon becomes anger. Afterward, Jack wanders through the hallways while muttering in frustration. When he enters the gold room, he turns on the lights and sits at the bar, saying he would give his soul for a drink. Suddenly, bartender Lloyd appears together with a variety of alcohol bottles. Jack knows his name and is happy to see him as if this was normal, so he asks for a glass of whiskey. He feels like a new man when he drinks and begins to complain about his family, insulting them both. As he freaks out, Jack admits he did hurt Danny 3 years ago, but it was an accident and they should be allowed to forget. At that moment, Wendy runs into the room, and Lloyd and the drinks disappear. She tells Jack that there's a crazy woman in a room who tried to strangle Danny in room 237. Meanwhile, Dick is watching TV at home when suddenly he starts having a vision. At the same time, Danny has the same vision in his room. Soon Jack enters room 237 and sees a beautiful naked woman in the bathtub. She steps out to welcome Jack with light touches, so he takes the chance to kiss her passionately. However, when he opens his eyes, he discovers he's been kissing an old woman whose body is rotting. The woman starts following him while laughing like a maniac, but Jack manages to step out of the room and lock it before running away. Danny has seen it all in his mind while drooling in his trance. When the vision is over, Dick tries calling the hotel but the phones still don't work. Next, he calls the park ranger and asks him to check on the family living in the hotel. Afterward, Jack tells Wendy that he found nothing. When she wonders where the bruises came from, Jack theorizes that Danny did it to himself and links it to the episode he had before they came here. Wendy tells Jack that they should leave the hotel to find a doctor for their kid, causing him to snap. Jack wants to keep writing and accuses Wendy of wanting to ruin his life before leaving the room. At the same time, Danny is horrified to see the word Red Room appear on his bedroom door and has the same vision about the bloody elevator. In the kitchen, Jack throws things around in a tantrum. When he reaches the lobby, he's shocked to find balloons and streamers all over the floor. He also starts hearing music, which he follows to the gold room. There's a huge party going on with people wearing formal clothes from decades ago. Jack sits at the bar and asks for a drink, but Lloyd won't take his money, saying it's orders from the house. A confused Jack wants to know who is buying his drink, however Lloyd responds that it doesn't concern him for now. Then Jack leaves his seat and accidentally bumps into a waiter, who spills liquor on his jacket. The waiter takes Jack to the bathroom to help him clean up and introduces himself as Grady. Jack remembers Stuart's story about Grady killing his family, so he asks the waiter if he used to be the hotel caretaker. Grady says he wasn't and doesn't recognize the incident that Jack describes. He even claims that his wife and daughters are in the hotel. He also insists that Jack has always been the caretaker, which he knows because he's always been here. The men stare at each other before Grady tells Jack that Danny is trying to introduce an outside party to the situation, using the N-word to refer to Dick. Grady thinks that Danny has a great talent and that he'll use it against Jack, calling him a naughty boy. Jack blames Danny's attitude on Wendy, so Grady implies they should be punished. Grady explains that his daughters didn't like the hotel when they first moved there and that one of them even tried to burn it down, but he corrected them. When his wife tried to stop him, he corrected her too. Meanwhile, Wendy is having a nervous breakdown. She keeps smoking while wondering if she and Danny could use the snowcat to find the park rangers. Suddenly she hears Danny yelling, so she rushes to his room to find him repeating the word Red Room. She tries to calm him down, but Danny uses Tony's voice to reply, "Danny's not here, Mrs. Torrance." Wendy thinks he's dreaming and asks him to wake up, but he says he can't and insists Danny is gone. A disturbed Wendy hugs him as she cries. Minutes later, Jack is wandering through the hallways and hears a voice on the radio. He enters Stuart's office and removes the radio's lid to pull out a bunch of parts to disable it. When Dick calls the park ranger again, he learns that nobody was able to contact the family. The next morning, Dick takes the first flight to Colorado. Soon he arrives at the Denver airport and calls a mechanic friend to borrow a snowcat. Then he rents a car out on his way to his friend's shop. He sees several vehicles that crash because of the weather. At the hotel, Wendy keeps trying to communicate with Danny, but he only responds in Tony's voice. With a baseball in hand, she goes looking for Jack but doesn't find him at his desk. She reads the page on the typewriter and only sees the phrase "all work and no play makes Jack a dull boy" written dozens of times. When she checks the pile of papers next to the typewriter, the same phrase is on every single page. Suddenly Jack appears behind her and asks her if she likes it. After a startled Wendy screams, Jack asks why she's here, but Wendy is too scared to put words together. At the same time, Danny has a vision of the bloody elevator and the word "Red Room" on the door. Jack starts following Wendy around the room, acting quite unhinged as he asks what they should do with Danny. When Wendy says they should take Danny to the doctor, Jack starts yelling at her, accusing her of wanting to ruin this job for him. A terrified Wendy walks up the stairs, swinging the bat in front of her as she asks him to stay away from her. With a crazy expression on his face, Jack continues to follow her, saying that he doesn't want to hurt her, he just wants to bash her brains in. Then Wendy finally hits him with the bat, causing him to fall down the stairs. Afterward, Wendy drags an unconscious Jack through the hotel kitchen. She wants to lock him up in the storage room, but she can't open the door. At that moment, Jack begins to wake up, so Wendy tries again and finally opens the door to drag him inside. Just when he's about to fight back, she runs out of the storage room and locks it, leaving him trapped inside. Jack starts pounding on the door and screaming while Wendy grabs a knife to defend herself. Hearing her crying, Jack talks in a sweet tone to tell her that he hurt his head really badly, so he needs a doctor. Wendy says that she'll leave with Danny on the snowcat and bring a doctor later. Then Jack drops the act and laughs like a maniac, saying she isn't going anywhere. Wendy rushes to check the snowcat and discovers that its engine has been destroyed. A few hours later, Jack wakes up from his nap in the storage room because someone is knocking on the door. It's Grady, who says Jack may not be cut out for the job after all. Jack begs for a second chance and Grady replies that the only solution is to deal with the matter in the harshest possible way. When Jack promises to do exactly that, the door opens. Meanwhile in the mountains, Dick drives the snowcat as fast as possible, which is hard in the darkness. While Wendy sleeps, Danny keeps repeating "Red Room" in Tony's voice. He grabs a knife from Wendy's night table and a red slipstick, which he uses to write "Red Room" on the bathroom door just like in his vision. This makes him repeat the word louder, which wakes Wendy up. She takes the knife from him and hugs him. When she looks in the mirror, she discovers that "Red Room" backwards is murder. Suddenly Jack starts hitting the main apartment door with an axe. Wendy drags Danny to the bathroom and locks the door behind her. Then she opens the window and pushes Danny out. Thanks to the pile of snow, he slides down easily. She tries to do the same, but the window is too small for her. She tells Danny to run and hide. Jack manages to make a hole in the main door and inserts his arm to unlock it. Then he starts breaking down the bathroom door too while quoting the big bad wolf from the Three Little Pigs fairy tale. Wendy screams in fear while she watches Jack make another hole and peek inside, saying "Here's Johnny" like the famous TV show. When he inserts his arm through the hole, Wendy slashes his hand with a knife. While Danny hides in a kitchen cupboard, Dick arrives at the hotel, so the couple hears the noise of a snowcat. Jack rushes to the lobby and as soon as Dick comes inside, he attacks him with the axe. Danny screams as he has a vision of what's going on. After Dick drops dead, Jack goes looking for his son and sees him running out of the kitchen, so a chase ensues. Meanwhile, Wendy leaves the bathroom and searches for Danny too. When she walks down a corridor, she sees a couple in a room doing the naughty with a weird costume. Terrified, she runs away and makes it to the lobby, only to find Dick's body. Then a man with a head wound appears behind her and says this is a great party, so Wendy runs again. In the next room she finds lots of cobwebs and a bunch of skeletons on the chairs. Wendy runs away once more and reaches the elevator, only to see the wave of blood coming out of it. Soon Jack finds the front door open, so he turns on the exterior lights and sees Danny entering the maze. Jack immediately follows him by keeping an eye on the boy's footprints in the snow. After running for a while, Danny notices his own footprints and decides to backtrack to confuse his father. While the boy hides, Jack yells in fury when he discovers that the footprints suddenly stop. He keeps wandering around and soon gets lost, so Danny manages to leave the maze without being seen. Wendy rushes to reunite with Danny and together they get on Dick's snowcat to finally escape. In the maze, Jack reaches the center and collapses as he mutters incoherent noises. The next morning, a dead Jack is frozen solid. In the hotel, music can be heard in the ballroom. A picture from 1921 shows Jack's face among the guests. Make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications so you can watch more videos like this. Thanks for watching.